An ampersand is a logogram and representing the conjunction word, and. The symbol originated as a ligature of the letters at, Latin, for, and. Etymology. The word ampersand is a corruption of the phrase and per se, and meaning. And the symbol and intrinsically is the word and. Traditionally, when reciting the alphabet in English-speaking schools, any letter that could also be used as a word in itself, ai, and at one point, o, was preceded by the Latin expression per se, by itself. It was also common practice to add the and sign at the end of the alphabet, as if it were the 27th letter, pronounced and. As a result, the recitation of the alphabet would end in x, y, z, and per se and. This last phrase was routinely slurred to ampersand, and the term had entered common English usage by 1837. However, in contrast to the 26 letters, the ampersand does not represent a speech sound, although other characters that were dropped from the English alphabet, such as the Old English thorn, did. Through popular etymology, it has been falsely claimed that André Marie Ampère used the symbol in his widely read publications, and that people began calling the new shape amperes, and. History. Evolution of the ampersand. The modern ampersand is virtually identical to that of the Carolingian minuscule. The italic ampersand, to the right, is originally a letter at ligature. At ligature in insular script. Example of ampersand based on a crossed epsilon, as might be handwritten. Some modern fonts, like Trebuchet MS, employ ampersand characters that reveal its origin. The ampersand can be traced back to the 1st century AD, and the Old Roman cursive, in which the letters E and T occasionally were written together to form a ligature, figure 1. In the later and more flowing New Roman cursive, ligatures of all kinds were extremely common, figures 2 and 3 from the middle of 4th century are both examples of how the et ligature could look in this script. However, during the following development of the Latin script that led up to the Carolingian minuscule, 9th century, while the use of ligatures in general diminished, the et ligature continued to be used, and gradually became more stylized, and less revealing of its origin, figures 4-6. The modern italic type ampersand is a kind of et ligature that goes back to the cursive scripts developed during the Renaissance. After the advent of printing in Europe, in 1455, printers made extensive use of both the italic and Roman ampersands. Since the ampersand's roots go back to Roman times, many languages that use a variation of the Latin alphabet make use of it. The ampersand often appeared as a letter at the end of the Latin alphabet, as for example in Bert for S list of letters from 1011. Similarly, and was regarded as the 27th letter of the English alphabet, as used by children in the U.S. An example may be seen in M.B. Moore's 1863 book The Dixie Primer, for the Little Folks. In her 1859 novel Adam Bede, George Eliot refers to this when she makes Jacob's story say, he thought its C had only been put to finish off th' alphabet, like, though ampersand would ha done as well, for what he could see. The popular apple pie ABC finishes with the lines X, Y, Z, and ampersand, all wished for a peace in hand. The ampersand should not be confused with the Turonian, at which is a symbol similar to the numeral 7. Both symbols have their roots in the classical antiquity, and both signs were used up through the Middle Ages as a representation for the Latin word et and. However, while the ampersand was in origin a common ligature in the everyday script, the Turonian et was part of a highly specialized stenographic shorthand. Writing the ampersand. In everyday handwriting, the ampersand is sometimes simplified in design as a large lowercase epsilon, or a numeral 3 superimposed by a vertical line. The ampersand is also often shown as an or 3 with a vertical line above and below it, or a dot above and below it. The plus sign is often informally used in place of an ampersand, sometimes with an added loop, and resembling. Usage. In film credits for stories, screenplays, etc., and indicates a closer collaboration than and. The ampersand is used by the Writers Guild of America to denote two writers collaborating on a specific script, rather than one writer rewriting another's work. In screenplays, two authors joined with and collaborated on the script, while two authors joined with and worked on the script at different times, and may not have consulted each other at all. In the latter case, they both contributed enough significant material to the screenplay to receive credit, but did not work together. More than likely one was hired to rewrite the previous writer's script. In APA style, the ampersand is used when citing sources in text such as Jones and Jones, 2005. In the list of references, an ampersand precedes the last author's name when there is more than one author. This does not apply to MLA style, which calls for the and to be spelled. The phrase etc. and so forth, usually written as etc., can be abbreviated and C, representing the combination et plus C, etc. The ampersand can be used to indicate that the and in a listed item is a part of the item's name, and not a separator, e.g. rock, pop, rhythm, and blues and hip-hop. The last 6 of these are carryovers from the Wingdings fonts, and are meant only for backward compatibility with those fonts. On the QWERTY keyboard layout, the ampersand is Shift +7. It is almost always available on keyboard layouts, sometimes on Shift +6 or Shift +8. On the AZERTY keyboard layout, it is just and. In URLs, the ampersand must be replaced by %26 when representing a string character, to avoid interpretation as a URL syntax character. Programming languages. In the 20th century, following the development of formal logic, the ampersand became a commonly used logical notation for the binary operator, or sentential connective, and this usage was adopted in computing. Many languages with syntax derived from C, including C++, Perl, and more, differentiate between and 4 bitwise, and 4 and 2 is 0, 4 and 5 is 4. And for short-circuit logical, and 4 and 2 is true. In C, C++, and Go, a prefix and is a unary operator denoting the address in memory of the argument, e.g., and X, and FUNC, and A. In C++ and PHP, unary prefix and before a formal parameter of the function denotes pass by reference. In Fortran, the ampersand forces the compiler to treat 2 lines as one. This is accomplished by placing an ampersand at the end of the first line, and at the beginning of the second line. In Common Lisp, the ampersand is the prefix for lambda-less keywords. Ampersand is the string concatenation operator in many basic dialects: AppleScript, Lingo, HyperTalk, and FileMaker. In Ada, it applies to all one-dimensional arrays, not just strings. Basic Plus on the DEC PDP-11 uses the ampersand as a short form of the verb print. AppleSoft Basic used the ampersand as an internal command not intended to be used for general programming that invoked a machine language program in the computer's ROM. In some versions of Basic, unary suffix and denotes a variable as of type long, or 32 bits in length. The ampersand is occasionally used as a prefix to denote a hexadecimal number, such as and FF4.255, for instance in BBC Basic. Some other languages, such as the monitor built into ROM on the Commodore 128, used it to indicate octal instead, a convention that spread throughout the Commodore community and is now used in the Vice emulator. In MISLI, and has dual roles. As well as a logical AND, it additionally serves as the bitwise operator of an intersection between elements. The ampersand character is used as a special character in at least some versions of the database software originally created in Denmark under the name Navision. The software has since been acquired by Microsoft. Using this character in either text or code fields could create difficulties for performing certain tasks in Navision, such as filtering records, either by the user or by programming. It is also used as described below to indicate shortcuts in menu items and labels. Perl uses the ampersand as a sigil to refer to subroutines. In Perl 4 and earlier, it was effectively required to call user-defined subroutines. In Perl 5, it can still be used to modify the way user-defined subroutines are called. In Perl 6, the ampersand sigil is only used when referring to a subroutine as an object, never when calling it. Text markup. In SGML, XML, and HTML, the ampersand is used to introduce an SGML entity. The HTML and XML encoding for the ampersand character is the entity, and pronounced amperamp. This creates what is known as the ampersand problem. For instance, when putting URLs or other material containing ampersands into XML format files such as RSS files, the and must be replaced with and, or they are considered not well formed and computers will be unable to read the files correctly. SGML derived their use from IBM Generalized Markup Language, which was one of many IBM mainframe languages to use the ampersand to signal a text substitution, eventually going back to System/360 macro assembly language. In the plain text markup language, the ampersand is used to mark tab stops. The ampersand itself can be applied in text with \, and the computer modern fonts replace it with an ET symbol in the CMTI #, text italic fonts, so it can be entered as \, and in running text when using the default computer modern fonts. In Microsoft Windows menus, labels, and other captions, the ampersand is used to denote the keyboard shortcut for that option, Alt plus that letter, which appears underlined. A double ampersand is needed in order to display a real ampersand. This convention originated in the first Win32 API, and is used in Windows Forms. And is also copied into many other toolkits on multiple operating systems. Unix Shells. Some Unix shells use the ampersand as a meta character. Some Unix shells, like the POSIX standard sh shell, use the ampersand to execute a process in the background, and to duplicate file descriptors. In Bash, the ampersand can separate words, control the command history, duplicate file descriptors, perform logical operations, control jobs, and participate in regular expressions. Web standards. The generic URL, Uniform Resource Locator, syntax allows for a query string to be appended to a file name in a web address so that additional information can be passed to a script. The question mark, or query mark, is used to indicate the start of a query string. A query string is usually made up of a number of different name-value pairs, each separated by the ampersand symbol, and, for example, www.example.com web link. But see also ampersands in URI attribute values.